Marketing in 2025 is wild. Savvy customers spot fake messaging instantly, privacy changes make ad targeting a nightmare, and everyone needs more content than ever. That's why you have to check out HubSpot's new marketing trends report. It doesn't just show you what's changing, it shows you exactly how to deal with it. Everything's backed by research, but focused on marketing plays you can use tomorrow. You ready to turn marketing hurdles into results? Go to clickhubspot.com/marketing to download it for free. Good morning, everybody, and happy Friday. It's April 11th. I'm John Weigell here with Mark Dent, and this is the Hustle Daily Show. The tariffs have been a shift for everybody, but Apple has been in the news a lot more than usual. The company is, in short, in panic mode. iPhones by the ton have been sent back from India, and estimates are rolling out for how much iPhones will actually cost if they're manufactured in the US, and it ain't pretty. So what are the details here, and will the almighty Apple go a bit rotten? We'll chat about that in a bit, but first, let's give the news in business and tech. First up here, Prada is acquiring rival high fashion brand Versace in a $1.38 billion deal. So the Prada Group is one of few luxury fashion groups thriving amid very weak demand right now, reporting a 17% increase in 2024 revenue, thanks in part to one of its smaller brands, Miu Miu. It had a 93% sales growth last year, and this will put Prada and Versace, the two Italian heavyweights, together. Next, Walmart unveiled a new AI-powered trend-to-product tool that it's been developing for the last 18 months. The company claims the proprietary trend-sensing design tool can shorten fashion production timelines by as much as 18 weeks, analyzing trends from the web and social media to create mood boards for designers and merchants. So, Mark, I had this thought previously this week, but it seems like Walmart is really going all in on becoming a fashion company.
Yeah, they are. And by shortening these production timelines by 18 weeks, that means they'll only be 18 weeks less than 2 years behind the trends when it comes to all the clothes that they sell. And I'm truly not saying this is much of a snob. I buy clothes from Walmart and certainly from Target from time to time. But it's literally like the cool t-shirt trend that picked up steam like 14 years ago. That is still their meal ticket at both of those places. Yeah. You know, this is certainly a usage of AI that I highly approve of. Anything that they can do to like get with the times a little bit quicker at those places.
Right. Anything they can do to stuff down the tried and true Star Wars graphic tees would be much appreciated, especially in the men's section. But yeah, no, Walmart's been doing really well in fashion. It's actually number 2 behind Amazon in the US right now. And I think they're trying to close that gap a bit. They're in like the $200 billion range for revenue for fashion.
Yeah.
So big deal.
Yeah.
They're going to be trying to sell more shoes and clothes.
Right. You know, Faded Glory, their in-store brand. I don't know if it's still there anymore, but that always made me laugh. It's like,
that's a good one.
Do you really want to buy a shirt with a brand name of Faded Glory? I don't know.
It's like buying Old Spice. Why do you want it? It's a little old. You know, maybe it's that rugged appeal. Next, so like the cost of everything else in the United States, stamp prices could also see an increase pretty soon. The USPS announced on Wednesday that first-class stamp prices could increase by 5 cents in July. This rate is the first of 5 price hikes planned through 2027. Mark, this is kind of crazy. I had to buy stamps recently, had to go to a Walgreens because the post office is kind of far and I hate it. And it was about $15 for a little page of stamps. And how much worse can it get?
Yeah, I mean, sticker shock. It's like, come on. Everything else is already so expensive. It's like at 2 Postal Service. Yeah. And, you know, the thing is, as everybody has known for a while, you know, the Postal Service hemorrhages money. I mean, it loses money pretty much. That's what it does. Right. So I get why they have to increase them. But bad timing.
Yeah, I mean, you could tell. I just hope a lot of that money goes back into the dilapidated post offices that are hanging on by a thread. I just really hope they reinvest. And finally here, Cadbury unveiled the world's largest cream egg. The massive egg is 3 feet tall, weighs in at just shy of 100 pounds, and is made of actual chocolate and fondant filling. Finally, a marketing stunt we can all get behind. I would try to eat it, but I'll need a ladder. Okay, so Apple is in a bit of trouble with the new tariffs right now. The company, of course, manufactures their products mainly outside of the United States. So, Mark, before we get into what a US centric only type of operation would look like, what's a way that Apple has been trying to avoid these tariffs?
Yeah, so Reuters had a bombshell scoop about what Apple is doing. And it frankly seems like it could almost be like a part of a movie.
Yeah.
Instead of having to like deal with the tariffs whenever they do end up going into effect, they shipped, again, according to Reuters, 600 tons of iPhones. That's roughly 1.5 million iPhones out of India to the United States. So that way they could essentially ward them off instead of having to ship these phones later on. And Apple in the first place had moved a lot of production to India from China because it was a little bit cheaper to do it there.
Sure.
So yeah, now there's 1.5 million iPhones that will, I suppose, delay the price increases that is likely to happen.
Yeah, it seems like it. I mean, these flights, also reported by Reuters, started back in March and have continued to this week. So it seems that they've been prepping for a little bit of time for these tariffs to kick in and just taking matters into their own hands, chartering some planes and sending all their phones back. I mean, they sell about 220 million iPhones a year worldwide, and 1/5 of iPhone imports in the United States come from India. As you mentioned before, they moved all their stuff to India. So the problem here is that the tariffs are happening and Apple is being put under a lot of pressure to maybe move their manufacturing from these other countries like India to the United States. But what's the problem with doing that, Mark?
Well, first, yeah, Apple is under as much pressure as probably any major company with regards to these tariffs because they do so much of the production in China. And they do some in India. The tariffs, for the most part, were lifted earlier this week for 90 days, but not the ones on China, at least of the time we're talking here on Thursday afternoon. And who knows what might happen by Friday morning. But, the China tariffs are at 125%.
Right.
So, yeah, and Apple is either going to continue to make their iPhones in China and they're going to have to deal with that cost somehow, or they've really been singled out almost by the Trump administration, by the White House, as a big company that they want to see move stuff to the US. Now, Apple has set aside something like $500 billion for manufacturing in the US. It announced that just earlier this year. But that's mostly for this AI server production that's going to happen in Texas. It has nothing to do with the iPhone.
Yeah. And, in terms of what Apple actually does in the US for their products, they do more design work and more engineering work. It's all about the software, essentially, and the design. So the fact that they have to move the production of iPhones, or they're looking at it moving to the US, of course, is going to result exactly the way everybody thinks it's going to result, is that the price of an iPhone may just absolutely skyrocket. We have a couple reports from Bank of America here and from Wedbush Securities that say that we can expect like a $3,500 iPhone potentially if these things happen.
Yeah, and certainly at least several hundred more dollars just if you're talking about the tariffs. And then, yeah, if they actually are going to make these all the way in the US, again, the estimates vary, but it could be anything from, a few $100s to tripling in price. The average price of an iPhone right now is about $1,000. But the most interesting reporting that I've seen on all this is the Wall Street Journal. When they talked to analysts, they really wanted to know, is it even possible to produce an iPhone in the US? And the answer to that is probably not. There are so many components that come from other countries as is, that get shipped into China and then the phones get fabricated there. So essentially what these analysts are saying is that some of the components could be produced in the US, but fabricating the iPhone itself would be so difficult. And again, the Trump administration, which has pointed out iPhones and Apple, they've really talked about them specifically. One of Trump's officials had said that there's going to be a lot of AI process that can be used to make these iPhones. But again, these analysts are no, you can't just use AI robots to make these iPhones. It still involves literal tightening of screws and all this glue work that's a lot harder than it sounds and that there is not skill for in the US right now.
Right. Some of these analysts have talked about moving the supply chain from China and India and other places to the US for Apple. And to move just about 10% of that supply chain would cost about $30 billion and take at least 3 years. I imagine moving everything over to the United States would take tens of years to move the entire operation. So with all this information, I don't see them moving production to the US anytime soon. I see them kind of skirting around the tariffs in some way to kind of build some things in other countries, but build other things in the US, things that are possibly easier to do. So they're definitely going to have to crunch the numbers, though, and figure out how to proceed over the next few years.
Yeah, I just think like the iPhone in particular is so popular, and yet it just seems so difficult to truly make that here in the US. You know, Apple has built things like the Mac Pro desktop in the US. And as I mentioned, they are planning on increasing their manufacturing foothold here in the US for other things. It's like, you know, the iPhone, again, so many components that, you know, are not plentiful in the US as is. And you're talking about a fabrication process that sounds next to impossible, considering the fact that it's really hard to get factory workers in general in the US. And for here, you'd be talking about an extremely specialized skill for factory workers.
Yeah, and in terms of the phone market, I don't even know what phones are manufactured in the US. Like I was thinking, you know, if an iPhone jumps up to $3,000, maybe I'll go to Samsung, but same issue, I feel like. So there's not a lot of wiggle room in tech, or specifically the phone industry, to where to jump to that might be like an American manufactured brand.
Just go back to the flip phone.
Yeah, that might be the thing to do it. But even then, you know, you got LG, you got Samsung, you got all that.
Yeah, I mean, it'll still be manufactured outside the US, but will at least be less expensive overall.
Yeah, get me like an Alex Graham Bell rotary, I guess. I'll work with that.
Yeah.
All right, and that's going to do it for us today. Thanks for tuning into the Hustle Daily Show. We're a proud part of HubSpot Media. Our editor is Robert Hartwig, and our executive producer is Darren Clark. We've got a ton more tech and business coverage in our newsletter. If you're not subscribed, go sign up at thehustle.co/email and follow us on Instagram at The Hustle Daily. We will catch you Monday. Hey, everybody. I've been listening to this awesome podcast lately. You know it. You love it. My First Million, hosted by Sam Parr and Sean Puri, is brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network, the audio destination for business professionals. My First Million features famous guests like Alex Hormozi, Sophia Amoruso, and Hassan Minaj, sharing their secrets on how they made their first $1 million and how to apply their learnings to capitalize on today's business trends and opportunities. Talk about somebody that's really in the now. They had on Mr. Beast recently, and Mr. Beast talked about his origin story and how he made his first $1 million and how you can make anything go viral if you really try to do it, which is a great listen. So I would definitely recommend checking it out. You can catch all the recent episodes whenever you want, and you can listen to My First Million wherever you get your podcasts.